Hello, world. We're back with another episode of the podcast monitoring tool. Um, it's been a little while, so not going to do too much uh, recap on the different things, but there might be a few kind of hiccups as we go through stuff and we kind of pick back up where we left off. So, um, at the end of the last episode, we finished the deliverable. Um, for number 7, the data classes, which is basically completing these metadata class, the feed class, and the episode class, which we have all up here with unit tests. Now, I did say last time, at the end of the last episode, we would do the unit test runner to run all the unit tests very easily. I'm going to skip that for now because I want to get back into kind of coding more of this application. And we'll do an episode probably later on that does this kind of unit test runner. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to pick up with creating the feed parser class, which is going to leverage these data classes to actually read the RSS feed. And so here we have this feed parser class, and it has these tasks here. And in order, we're going to make an RSS request, parse it, and then package up the results. Now, the thing to consider here, so basically we're creating this feed parser class, which is outlined in this box. We have these data classes here, and so we want to, the first task is to make the request. That is this requester here, which will have this functionality of making the request and getting the result. Then the second task is doing the parsing here, and then we're packaging it up, and that's the third task. So basically, this here is one task, this is another task, this is another. The requester is actually very simple, as you can see just by functionality. It makes a request. It's basically an HTTP request. We have actually from the prototype code, basically something there that does that. The consideration to make here is whether we just want to, code that function directly into the parser, because that's really all it needs to be. In fact, it doesn't even need to necessarily be a function. It could just be a call in a function. The problem with that is it makes the unit testing of the parser significantly more challenging, because if you write a unit test and then you're trying to run the parser, you can't just pass in data, right? You're going to be making these requests to these feeds, and so kind of what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to pass in the requesting class. That way you could create a fake one that will essentially create dummy requests and return specific data that you can then unit test the parser on. So knowing that that would be the case, we're going to turn the requester into its own class, into a very simple class, and we're going to consider what, if any, unit tests, and then kind of what more functional tests we might need for that. So let's get started, and we will come in here first, and we will mark the feed parser deliverable in progress, and we'll mark this in progress. If I remember correctly, that should... Cool. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to revert that real quick, and I'm just going to create a branch for this. So if we look at our branch here, we had the data classes 007. So we're going to do something similar, and I believe, so we have the V branch, and I believe the V branch does a checkout, and so I think it accepts all the args. So I think essentially, well, we don't need to use it for this. I'm going to run it just so I can get used to using it again. But we should do vbranch-b, and then we'll call this feed parser-008. Let's see what happens. So it uninstalls everything and then reinstalls everything the exact same, because there's no change, right? So normally, so just as a quick reminder, if we had a different branch and we started installing other things that we needed from the requirements here, like so let's say we need something new here. In this case, we already had these because we did it in prototyping. Then when we go back to a main branch, it would remove those, get rid of them, and then when we come back here, it would add them back on, right? So let's get rid of that. All right, so let's just check this real quick. Now I could have done that, and it would have kept everything the same, but I'm just going to remark this in progress, and then come down and make this in progress. Right, great. So now let's look at the prototype code real quick. So as you can see here, we have this code here, which is opening up the feed file, right? And so for that now, we're actually going to be getting in the feed parser in general, we're going to be getting the metadata class, which contains the URL. And so that's what's going to come in here. So that's how we're going to get the URL here. And then it's basically just a GET request. And then the data itself is the content of the result. And then all this parsing is what's going to happen in the other class. So it's literally just this section here, plus or minus a little bit, that we're doing, right? And so that was what I was saying, where it's very simple. You could literally, if we had wanted to, we could have literally just in the top of the parsing function, we could just do get URL dot content and then pass and then just use that. But again, that makes testing significantly more difficult later on. So what we're going to do is let's just take, I guess it doesn't matter which one. Is there one that's smaller? Probably the metadata one. Maybe not. That's small enough. All right. So I'm gonna close out feed metadata feed unit test, and let's copy feed metadata as requester unit test, and I'm kind of blocking myself there. .py. And I don't know that we need to really keep any other stuff, so we'll just type null, and we'll just create a file for the requester.py, and we'll open both these up. All right, and then we can just strip out all this information that we don't need. Get rid of all that. I'm just doing this as a and then we'll redo this to requester spell all those right? Looks like it. Right, cool. Okay, and then just if we wanted to actually pass, so okay, the other thing we need to do is we need to open up activate the virtual environment. Oh, so I guess I made a mistake, and I should have done that before I did the V branch because it was uninstalled. But I guess it might have just installed things I didn't want it to. I'll have to clean that up later. Yeah, cool. Okay, so in here we'll do Python, run it, and then see. So we'll get the import error from here, and that's because we need to create a class requester. Pass. Boom. All right. Cool. So get status. One line. All right. So we'll say get add and get commit -m. And we'll say created skeleton for requester class. I missed that. There we go. Cool. All right, and so from here, we basically, right, so as I'm saying, we have this. This is all it's going to do, right? So it's just going to receive content. So the question becomes, okay, unit test wise, is there anything to unit test? We'll probably want to have some sort of test. The most obvious thing to do is a functional test, right? To actually just read just to have a regression test for it, so that when everything runs, if there's an issue specifically, not necessarily with this code, but with the feeds, that test will catch us. So if that test fails, we know, okay, there's a problem with the feeds, and the fact that other tests are failing, or the fact that something's failing, right? If other unit tests are failing, then it's likely that we probably coded something wrong. But if just those tests are failing, then okay, well, we know we have to make some sort of adjustments, possibly to the parser, right? So the parser might actually be failing, but we're not catching it in unit tests because either we have bad unit tests, or it's not just kind of robust enough and stuff like that. So from a functional test perspective, we could create, we can just read one of the RSS feeds and just kind of verify that it's getting the content, and that the kind of basic, maybe some basic elements are there, and that certain things kind of like match what we might expect them to be. From a unit test side, what we could test, so we could verify the types, I guess. We could say that, okay, if you're given a bad URL or something, right, it returns, nothing. If you're given a good URL, you get, kind of the what's going to return there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to also copy. So I'm going to copy the unit test and create another one, and I'm just going to call it. So I work on a browser, and so we call them browser tests. And there's different names for different things. I'm just going to call it functional test. I'll just call it that for now. It's fine. You can always decide renaming stuff later. Okay, and then so let me open up that one too. I'm gonna just call that ftest. And so now where's the Python? Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can figure out stuff around this later. So now move this over here. Okay. So let's see. So the functional test is probably the easiest one to start coding with because it's kind of the most logical. So if I open up where's the JSON file? Here we go. I'm going to take this. Let me switch over to the other screen here. Park City. And we're going to come in and we're just going to navigate to this. So, like we kind of had with that other data, when we navigate to this, we get channel information, some image information, and then these items with kind of the different things. And so yeah, I guess we could just, you know, we can just check that we kind of get a response and get kind of like a basic response and stuff. So let's do this. So let's switch back to the other screen. Okay, and you don't need that. All right, so so this is the URL. So we're gonna just add this, the test, and this was for main feed. I'm just gonna label it right now, main feed, and then we're gonna create a requester, which doesn't exist. So we'll say self dot requester equals this. Great. So that, for example, that's gonna fail. And then, so what's something we can test, right? So we can come in here, we can say, so I don't even know if we want unit tests. Now that I'm thinking about it, because right, I could test a bad URL here as well, because I am actually making a call, like a network call, and so I don't know that we're gonna have any gain creating the. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this. I'm also going to, just real quick, get rid of this stuff because I want to commit that. I should do things cleanly, right? That would make sense. Fine. Okay, cool. And let's add this stuff back in. Okay, so I'm gonna move this down here. Then copy this. With that, and we'll say test bad URL, test main feed URL. So I'm gonna this comment. So now the requester is not going to be responsible for really what it's requesting. So a bad URL could be like a URL to kind of just like a web page, or it could be, so I'm going to say incorrect URL, and I'm going to add one and just say no URL. So this will be something that's just like that, or this one, yeah, do that. This one will do and then we'll do that. All right, so now requester dot get data. get data, get data. All right. And all of these will fail for multiple reasons. But I think that's basically, okay, and then so result equals okay, so here we'll say like, so how do we want to verify this? So do we want to say it throws an exception? So this one's gonna, this one, is it best to say it throws an exception? I don't even know what it's gonna do. So let's just for now. Let's just do this for now and get this part to pass. Okay, so now, right, obviously we run this Python failures, and it's because we fail here and then we fail here. So we basically need to pass line, for example, 12. We need to add that, and then we need to add that. So this is simple, obviously, to do. Come and go def init self URL get data self, that's it. So now we got all that stuff passing. So now, right, basically this is what we need. This is the code that we're going to end up using. So let's just start with this. Return self.url.content. And let's run the tests. Oops. Okay. So let's see. We had one error on the 3 tests. And so this one here, no URL, so that one failed. So if it has like a non-URL, that failed, but this one's fine, and this one's fine. And so here, basically, we just want to say, so I think there is an exception mechanism. What do we use for these? We just wrapped it, a try, except, pass, selfish or true. So we just did this. So we'll come back over here. And we'll just say try, except, pass. What is the exception that is raised? Missing schema? I'm going to put that in for now. Oh, here we go. So this is a So here we want from request dot exceptions import missing schema. So we get a missing schema, pass, otherwise self dot assert true, false. I feel like there's got to be a better way to do that. All right, now all 3 tests pass. And now I'm interested to see, let's see, print type of wait, what did I do? Did I delete this? Oh no. Oh no, wait. Yeah, looks like I deleted that somewhere. All right, put that back in. Print type result. I assume it's a string. Bytes, either way. Can I do this with bytes? I have to turn it into a string. I can. So, we need some more of the metadata. I mean, I guess I could just parse out this. It's not really interesting, but I could do that just for fun. So let's say self.assert equal type of result bytes, and then we'll do, let's go print, or let's say key equals title. And we'll say result dot find start tag end tag equals key, because I'm probably gonna abstract this out for the other one, but at least for this case, and then we'll say plus the length. So here we have find start tag, add to the length of start tag, and then we'll go to result.find end tag. Do that, and let's just print that. That should just be Bing. Oh, okay, so because it's not a string, we can't do that. So let's just say I wrap So I have to do b dot decode. So do I want bytes or do I just want to? I feel like I'm just going to turn it into a string because it'll be easier. So I'm going to go dot decode. So this here now turns a string. We don't need to do any conversion. Yep, bang. So for now, we'll just go self.assert equal bing. That passes 1.3 minutes. All right, I'm gonna leave that for now. So what did we do? We added in this, updated these tests, switched that around. Added the decode. So let's just look at the diff real quick. Yeah, so we implemented cluster get data and filled in 2 out of 3 FTs. And let me actually do this. I'm going to do get tag episode 11. Okay, so we're going to call it, did it? Okay, there we go. Yes, we're going to call it on that. Next time what we're going to do is we're going to kind of finish filling out this main feed URL, and then we'll clean the functional test up a little bit. And then we'll move on to the next task to actually parse the response, which now we'll have kind of a feel for both from the prototype right here, which uses this XML here, right? And we could use that. So maybe we'll update a test to use this because it's kind of simple. Simpler than string parsing in a sense. So we could do that. I don't know if it works for that because it's not. I don't know if it's the correct data for that. Anyway, where were we? We were looking at that. I mean, it might. You can always try it out. Either way. But yeah, we'll finish up next time. We'll finish up this this task, so that way we can then move on to the actual parsing and continue on from there. So we can kind of get basically this whole section done, and then we can do the filter, and then we'll have all the data that we want. So, so yeah, that should be all for this one. And then until next time, see ya.